like to explore strange, surreal elements under a feminine lens. This is my hometown show. This is the first show I ever did. They've treated me really well here. I love my friends and family are here. It's GR. It's my home. I have a lot of artists I'm fond of. Agnes Cecil's a watercolor artist in Italy that I really, really love. She's probably my biggest source of inspiration. Maybe Chiara Bautista. Everyone knows her. She does the really beautiful pencil illustrations. You've probably seen her online. I love hearing the reception to it. I like knowing what people think. Also, it's really cool just to be in good company. There's so many amazing artists here, and to make the friends that I've made at these shows is top notch. I have a couple kind of changes every year, but people really like Alien. I too am a huge fan of Alien, and that's, probably my Xenomorph is my biggest seller. Right now I'm working on a series of tarot cards. I'm doing the full 78 deck, which is taking a very long time. Each card takes me about 5 to 8 hours, and so I guess as a series, this is taking the most amount of time. I've been working on it for about 1.5 years. Hopefully we'll get it done soon. I've been getting really heavy into watercolors lately, and every year I do a self-portrait. This may be a little vain, but right now my favorite piece is my self-portrait this year, 33. It's the best watercolor piece I think I've done. You can find me on my website, www.crwarner.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the things. I'm on all the things.
They're called omamori. They're Japanese good luck charms, and basically the tradition behind them is if you lived in Japan, you would go to the temple and you would buy an omamori and then make a wish, and then you would hang it off something like your backpack or your purse, whatever, and if it ever got damaged, it means it took the hit for you from an evil spirit, and then you would throw it away, and then you would buy another one. So it's meant to be like a way to support the temple, but it's also like a New Year's sort of tradition as well. So this is my version on that authentic piece of Japanese culture, tainting it with my filthy American hands. While I was in art school around my junior, senior year, when I really just started honing in on what I felt like I was good at and what I resonated with versus what the professors wanted or what people in general were we want more of this, we want more of that, and I'm like, no, you know what, I like this better, so I'm gonna go for that. I think my biggest inspiration as an artist would probably have to be Keith Haring. I'm a real big lover of New York in general. I'm from there, and that very iconic, graphic, simple, cute yet punchy style is very appealing to me personally. So that would definitely be an influence of mine. But I'm also really into Art Nouveau, so that's turn of the century, 1920s, Parisian yet American. And it has lots of really organic shapes. They're very pretty, but using really rough materials like wrought iron. So Alphonse Mucha is a big one. You've probably heard of that one. I think the most time lately would have to be these risographs, because this is the most new thing that I've done. And the reason it takes so long, even though the style is very simple, is because all of these colors are actually achieved through just 2 oil-based inks, and it's just gradients between them. So figuring out the right ratio of those 2 colors takes a lot of time and takes a lot of energy, and how to cut down, how to put in, make it more graphic, make it more punchy, but still having that nice simplicity. Mentally, it takes a lot more time than other things do. You can follow us on My Oh My at Big Cartel or Bluelius at any of your favorite social media. It's like a little fortune cookie fortune. Isn't that so cute? Thank you. I thought so.
fantastic.
And there she goes.
Hi, my name is Silas Sanchez, aka Silo Draw. The art I kind of do is fan art, which is I do a lot of anime, comic book, video game. I just love all things pop culture and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a huge nerd. So some of my biggest sources of inspiration are Akira Toriyama, who did Dragon Ball Z. That one was a huge one for me. I grew up with that. Also, weirdly, Captain Underpants, which is like Dave Pilkey. I grew up reading those, and I used to draw Captain Underpants all the time. Also, my dad, he kind of taught me some of the basics of drawing, and he kind of got me into that. So the first time I did a show, I was really afraid, and honestly, I don't think I was ready for it. My art was not good enough to be sold, in my opinion. I still think I'm improving. But now I feel like I'm more comfortable selling my art, but it is a little bit scary at first, but then you realize that most of the time people will appreciate what you have out to offer because they know how much work you put into it. What tends to be my biggest seller are Pokemon. Pokemon's just huge. I don't know when Pokemon will not be huge. Honestly, the day that happens, I'll be surprised because people are constantly asking for Pokemon. The piece I am most proud of is one I actually no longer have, and it was in the 3rd grade. It was green eggs and ham. I drew a picture of green eggs and ham. I was so excited about it. I spent so much work on it. Everybody thought it was awesome, but I never got it back. The teacher said she didn't know what happened to it. I don't know what that means, but I really liked that green eggs and ham, and it probably wasn't even that good, but I remember it being so good. But that one's probably my favorite piece of all time. A lot of people have said this is a good show, and this is actually my 2nd year. Last year I really enjoyed it. I like the people around here, I like the culture. Everybody's really accepting, really nice, and I just overall enjoy the vibe of this con. You can find me on Silo Draw on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, Silo Draw. I have a YouTube channel where sometimes I upload stuff, sometimes keyword, but most of the time Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff, I upload art constantly, so.
My name is Patrick. I am a local Grand Rapids artist, although right now I'm at Kalamazoo for Western Michigan, studying mechanical engineering. That's a little bit about me. My dad is an artist also locally here, so he's had a table at the past few Comic-Cons, and then this year he decided not to do it, and I actually kind of picked it up. So the John Wick one gets a lot of reactions. That one seems to be a pretty popular one. One of my personal favorites too. When I moved to college and I started having some downtime, so I started picking it up. I've always kind of drawn a little bit, but around then is when I started really getting into it. It feels pretty good. I've been doing art for a while, but I haven't really shared it that much. I mean, I do have the Instagram page that I posted on, but I don't really go out trying to like sell all the time, so it's exciting. The longest one, probably the Iron Man up in the top. That was one of my first experiences trying to go with like a full background, full like scene, rather than just drawing people like I usually do. So that was the longest one. So I do have the Instagram and the Facebook, both at Art of Patrick West. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm pretty regular on there. I post every time I get a new drawing finished. I am a really big fan of how that Iron Man one turned out. I think that one's probably got to be my personal favorite.
crochet when I was really young, maybe like, 8 or something. And then I was a giant nerd, so I was crocheting Afghans on the playground in elementary school, and people thought I was just the coolest shit. And I was like, yeah, that's great. And so then I discovered that you could do like 3D things, and then I'm like, okay. So I made like a ball, and it happened to be yellow, and then I'm like, oh, what can I do with a yellow ball? I can make a Pikachu. So then I made like the head of a Pikachu, and I'm like, this is adorable, what can I do with this? And I just like went from there, looking up patterns and adorable things, and I just kind of really took it and ran with it. I actually started in anime cons, and I thought that was more of a niche because that's kind of what I'm making a lot of Pokemon, which is technically an anime. So that's where I started, but then I'm just like, oh, Grand Rapids Comic Con, it's like 2 seconds from home. I might as well like try that. And then like I sold so much that I was like, okay, apparently Comic-Con's where it's at. Comic-Con's where people love my stuff, so I guess that's where I'll go. And since it's pretty much hometown, it just makes so much sense. Honestly, it's really fun because like I love people's reactions. I have had the whole spectrum of reactions from people, especially with prices. Some people are like, oh my god, shut up and take my money, and other people are like, set it down and back away slowly. But like just the expressions on people's faces as they walk by, and they're like, oh my god, it's the joy that it brings me. It's great. A couple of cons ago it was the axolotls, and then pretty much every time the evolutions pretty much like are big, so I kind of tripled down on that one this time and brought a ton of them. The melodic up here, it takes a lot of time because of the how big it is, but then I always put wire in it to try and like make it posable and things like that. But honestly, the crocheting's the fast part. It's like any like felted details or extra sewing parts that take the longest. So anything that has as little felting as possible is my go-to. I really do love when I make my Charizards, because just the fact that I can turn something so soft and fluffy into something so intense looking, I'm always happy with how it looks. So if you looked up Neko Koneko 92, you'll probably find me on Instagram. But as much as that sucks, I am not a huge social media person, so that's pretty much where I'm putting all of the pictures of the crochet stuff. But I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Experiment with different art styles and try different things out. Yeah, this is great. I love these shows. It's so much fun to see different cosplayers, and like everyone's so like supportive, and it's almost nice to have people like come by all day and say, oh, I love your work. It's pretty validating, and it's nice to meet people in person rather than online. The two FMA prints over there that have the red holographic, those do really well. And yeah, the whole set, the characters, all of them, it's pretty good. So I don't know if I have a specific style. I kind of, build off of like trying new things and just like compile all that into every piece and just keep learning different techniques. So I don't know if I've developed a singular style yet, but I've experimented enough that I can be a little bit of a jack of all trades soon. So I value that more than having a single style, honestly. So like the simple like holographic ones like this, that's just like a holographic sheet that's on top of it. So that's pretty simple to like print. Something more like this one where there's like the foil. There's like two files that I sent to the printer. One of like just like the foil area, like just a solid black, just to say that's where that is, and then like another file that has everything else. So like they print the flare first and then print everything else on top of it. The Everything Everywhere print that I mentioned earlier, that has the combine of art styles. That's kind of like, yeah, that's proud of how that one worked together too. Yeah. I'm also creating a comic right now, Stained Sky, so that's also similar concept of like different worlds and different art styles. So I'm also pretty proud of, yeah, something that's originally my own making, and comics takes a lot of time. So Stained Sky. It's about the main character, Xiaomin. She's a disaster lesbian who travels to different worlds, and each world has a different art style. So the pages like look different depending on where she is. She keeps running around because she's being chased by some authorities, and when they meet up, there are gay sword fights and other adventures too. Pixelwave.com is my main website. There's Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, I'm on Discord. Stained Sky is available on Webtoons and Tapas, and yeah, people should be able to find me. Thank you.
Comic-Con before, but I was the cover artist for the 2021 show, and I got to be in the artist alley for that and featured for that, so that is where I started here, and I just decided to keep coming back because this is my home convention now for the artist alley. It's really intimidating, of course, but I'm happy to be able to do it. I would say really any of my traditional pieces that are in ink, they take a considerable amount of time, but so do some of my digital pieces. I think I'm actually still discovering my style. I'm a young artist, so everything evolves so quickly, my style evolves so quickly, and even just this piece here that I did a few years ago feels like outdated and not in my style anymore, so really I'm still discovering my style. I guess I'm mostly inspired by like nature and the things around me, and just kind of fantasy, TV, whatever it is. My fox one, I made it for my mom for Mother's Day. It's a more recent one, but I really like how it turned out. It's AliciaNRichardson.com. ALISHAN Richardson.
And my slogan is Cause Draws, K-O-Z-Z Draws. I actually live here locally. I've lived here for almost a decade now, and when Grand Rapids Comic-Con started, I started poking the waters, and I love how it's grown and flourished into something really wonderful. So that's why I came here. Sometimes when I make pieces, I will make them depending on the voice actors that are visiting. So if I make, for example, a Danny Phantom picture, because we have some voice actors for Danny Phantom here, that might sell, for example. Otherwise, charms and small things too, because people like to talk and stuff. I love doing details and landscape. So I love love architectural details, environmental details, and narrative storytelling into like one illustration. And I like to see if I can like think of a comic and then compound it into like a story. The more you look at a piece, the more you see. It's my environmental piece up here. I don't know how many hours that took, but it took me a few months. I don't know if I would say I have a style per se. I love to experiment. I like to try different things all the time. Traditional, digital. People say that I have a style. I guess I do. But yeah, whatever goes. I like trying new things. You can follow me on my Instagram is the platform I post the most. So it would be at Cause Draws, KOZZ Draws on Instagram.
I'm Rory Webb.
We're married, husband and wife team. We do a comic series, a D&D comic series called The Ascendants. I don't really have a slogan, so we'll just ignore that part. So, yeah.
What's cool is with our story, and it's a bit inspired by Dungeons and Dragons and some of the role-playing games. So it's after we had come up with a world and had our own characters in there and ran this campaign, and we're like, hey, let's bring this story to life, and that's sort of how it started.
For me, I'm the comic person. 90s, like Jim Lee era X-Men, like big time. I'm a huge fan of him, so that's my big inspiration.
Some of the biggest inspiration for a lot of these stories would be, a lot of the like adventure movies like Willow, that's a big one. Of course, like Lord of the Rings, that's a huge one. A lot of
video games.
Yeah, video
Old
games
video
like
games.
Final Fantasies, a lot of those early ones like Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 4.
The first time was really nerve-wracking. It was at Cherry Capital, which is in Traverse City. We didn't do that well because we didn't really know what we were doing, but when we finally sold one of our books, it was like, oh my god, that was so worth it.
We're like, we're gonna take your picture, man.
Yeah, please, like you're our first customer. Yeah. So it was nerve-wracking and exciting at the same time. Well, we're done with this one. So when I was working on it, I had the script all done, like he had written the script. That was all finished. So I would kind of block it out, like what each page was going to be. So I'd start with a sketch. I started on boards, but then I went more digital because it's a lot faster. So I would sketch it out and then ink it and then color it and then do the word bubbles. So that was like 1 page a week. That was like, okay, my goal is to finish 1 page each week.
I think one of the challenging things that we ran into, sort of like when we were writing this, is when we had the campaign and we had the whole story. We wrote out the whole story as it sort of played out with the player characters and what we had going on, and translating that to a graphic novel was sometimes there's some challenging parts because things don't always translate 100%. So we had to make a couple tweaks, and I think it was for the better.
So based on actual games you guys played?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Back in college, so it's like an old story, and we're like old people now. But I went to Grand Valley for art, so it was an experience. But I did learn a lot, and I kind of, I guess, all what I learned in art classes there helped me settle on like how I draw, and I've been doing it that way for a long time now. So college, I would say.
And I also went to Grand Valley for film and video production, and so I've always sort of liked telling stories. But what was interesting with sort of bringing this D&D campaign, it was really interactive And I thought it was really, really fun when the characters or the players would do things that I wouldn't expect, and then it forced me to sort of think as some of these NPCs as to, okay, how would they react to this? So it was a really organic story that sort of played out, and that's why we were like, hey, we should make this a new graphic novel.
Yeah. We are on Instagram. It's at Legends of Akra, which is
this logo on here somewhere.
Right here.
Yeah,
and okay, yeah, the awesome sign that he made. And we're also on Facebook, which is at Legends of Akra there too.
I'm Andy Shaw of Andy Shaw Illustrations. I do fantasy and science fiction ink drawings. Well, I'm a local, so it's highly convenient for me, but also the size and the grandeur of the event is definitely an attractive piece. In the beginning, MC Escher for his line work and surreal landscapes. These days, Gerald Brom, Carl Kapinski for the content. Yeah. Well, in person is far more rewarding than putting stuff up online. More interaction. It's just everything feels better, more organic. It's a positive experience.
What is usually your biggest selling piece?
These on-the-spot commissions generally are, but if it had to be an item that does not change, it'll be this knight over here.
Why do you think that knight is the top seller?
Striking style, technique? I'm not totally sure. It's a dramatic piece for sure. The lighting is shocking, I guess. People love knights. I love knights.
You do draw a lot of knights. What started that?
An early fixation with the medieval age. Age of Empires is, I think, to blame, chiefly. Got into that when I was a kid. I think around the other side, there's a piece called Stalker 1. Definitely that one. A lot of individual like blades of grass and foliage, dead trees and stuff. That took me several days back to back to do. This one here with all the leaves, definitely one I'm proud of. A lot of detail in there. Yeah, probably those two are my favorites. Instagram, YouTube, and I have a website called AndyShawIllustrations.com.